said, I believe I've got 3 slide decks that I will share out with folks or provide a, I will share out in a PDF form with you all so that you can actually go through there. And obviously, me and my staff, and I know Toya and liaisons are always available for questions about that. And if one of us can't find the answer, the other one will. So that's, that is BZS kind of 101. I'm going to see here. I will stop showing. Let's see. Do we have, also, if you've got some questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box, and I will, we will try to answer them. Let's see if we have. Suggestion for how commissions can effectively get through the number of zoning applications in a timely fashion. I always suggest using committee system, which I think you all have a committee that actually goes out and does a site visit. I know a lot of them do, and then bring a recommendation back to the whole board or the whole commission and go through that. There are a lot of them, and some areas are seeing such a huge number of variances, and hopefully over the course of the next couple of years we can reduce that variance, those variance needs, so that you all aren't burdened with having to review that many every month. So, you know, and you know what? Don't be afraid to give a no recommendation. If you all don't like the variances, don't think that the neighborhood can handle those variances, vote no, do a no recommendation, and then, you know, the final decider, whether it's BZA or council, they will take that into consideration. They'll also take our city staff staff report letter into consideration and make a decision based on that. So let's see. So I understand you got a lot. There's a lot of them there. A lot of things. Okay. All right. I am going to, let's see here. So, does anybody have any questions? If you want, you can hit the hand up, raise your hand, and I will do that while I pull up another set of slides. Okay. Nobody's talking, making me think nobody's listening out there. So, all right. So that is. Let me go into what we're going to talk about next. I'm going to work through the council activities a little bit more in depth, and again, that's going to be the rezonings, and council variances. Okay, so hopefully everybody's got the relief from zoning code requirements disc or slide up. All good? Okay. So now a lot of the graphics in my slides come off of our GIS map, which is the official zoning map for the city, and at the end of one of the slide decks, there is the address for that. You all, and I'll talk about later about how you can find information off of there. Those will, that GIS map has got a lot of information, a lot of resources for you all to understand more about any given parcel. So with a rezoning is going to change the zoning district, whether it's changing from a commercial 1 or C1 to C2, or maybe a residential 1 to an R2, or to an apartment designation, ARLD, I believe. So that's fully changing what the zoning district is. Now, over the years, the city has changed not only definitions of what is allowed in different zoning districts, but we've also done area-wide rezonings, and that has caused different parcels to be what's called non-conforming. A great example of that is Indianola Avenue coming from the university area, or from Clintonville into the university area. That is all zoned commercial, because when that was zoned in the late 20s, I-71 didn't exist. And that was considered the route into downtown, coming into the university, picking up Summit, and coming back out on 4th. Those were the ways into the downtown. So they envisioned, the planners envisioned that would become a commercial corridor. Well, once I-71 was put in the mid-60s, that becoming a commercial corridor really didn't pan out. But that zoning's still there. So and it's most of it is apartments or residential. So all those parcels along there are called non-conforming. They're not illegal. A non-conforming parcel is not an illegal parcel. It just means that the use was there before the zoning code was put in place on that parcel. So usually if somebody ends up wanting to renovate or build on one of those parcels, they have to conform with the current zoning code with it, or get a variance to get it rezoned. Now, council variance, it permits a use that's not permitted in the zoning district. So in that same example that I was just talking about, Indianola Avenue, where we have residential in there in a commercial zoning district, the people could either rezone or they could get a council variance that just says their residential use is allowed, and that takes it out of being non-conforming and makes it conforming. And what causes the need for people to do things like that is a lot of times, since the recession in 2009, banks have wanted properties, buildings and structures on properties to match the zoning code of that parcel. So we've seen a lot of times where where somebody goes to go refinance, and all of a sudden they find out they're in a commercial parcel, but they're a single-family residence, and their bank wants them to rezone. So they've got to go through either the rezoning or the council variance to make their bank happy. So, all right. So, and then as it says here, City Council is the final approval body for rezonings and council variances. If he changes. So when you're looking at our GIS map, you've got what it would be termed an unrestricted district, which is basically your C4, your R1, your AR1. There's no limitation text, there's no overlays, nothing. It's just a straight zoning district, which means what it says in the code is what's allowed on that parcel. And that's the ultimate goal we want, but there are places where we end up with restrictive districts, and usually you'll see an L in front of the zoning district, like as you can see here, LC4, LAR1. But there's also things with CPD, which is, I believe, Commercial Plan District. And basically, that is a customizable zoning district. So somebody may want to do different things on that parcel, but may not all be allowed under any single zoning district. So they'll do a CPD, and so CPDs essentially make little individual zoning districts, which we'd like to move away from, but they are always going to have that. For recommendations are always needed from the staff report. That's Department of Development Planning and Traffic Management, and a lot of those groups. Internal would be under the staff report. Your area groups, the area commission, would provide a recommendation, as would the development commission. So all of our recommendations are three groups. Those are all recommendations to council as to what we think about it. Council is going to make the final approval or disapproval for that that requested change. So all right. So we've got an example of the sheets, which a lot of folks, and I saw somebody talking about where sheets or that got a question about how they can find out where the sheets locations are going throughout the city. There may be a way that you can, if you want to know where they are, you can send me an email. I believe we can do a search for our records with our records group to find out where those are. But basically, so in this case, they needed to rezone. That's what the Z number is, the Z20-029 up on Bethel Road. And if I remember correctly, they're going to end up combining some of these parcels together. So they're going to they apply with us. The applicant consults with staff to make sure we meet with them early to ensure that that we catch all the variances that they may need. The last thing we want to do is have them get through the process and then us go, oh, wait a minute, there's one more variance, you need to start the process over again. That application, that identical application is going to be emailed to you all, and it'll be posted on the Citizens Portal. And remove the post video. All right. I just saw Rita. You'll have to explain what you mean by that. Or are you all seeing?
Your video is coming up in the presentation, so it blocks out some of the wording.
Okay. I know you can move the the video screen around by just grabbing it at the top and maybe moving it over to the right-hand side.
I see how you can do that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
All
there's
right.
also the layout function.
Say that again, Sierra.
There's that layout button at the top. I don't know if that's the issue.
Yeah, let's see. So are you all just seeing the slide here that I'm highlighting?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to keep moving along, and hopefully I'm not, hopefully we can keep making it work. So as I said, we will send the application to the area commission that is pertinent to, and all of the documents and the ability to track where where things are in the process is in the Citizens Access Portal. I know that Philip put that in the chat. It's also on the very front page of our website, which is, and that will be listed at the end of the application or end of the slides here. So this is an application that you would see if you pulled up a rezoning, and it's got the applicant number on there, the property owner, and the agent or the attorney that's representing them. Many times, especially on these larger projects, applicants, will have an agent like Connie Klima here or David Hodge. I'm sure many of you are familiar with, so forth. One thing that came out recently is we rely on the applicant to provide us with accurate, honest information. As I said before, we have some players that are not quality players, but that tends to come out in the end at some point. We operate off of what the information they give us, and then we make our decisions based on that. So, I've got a case right now where a lady says the applicant doesn't have permission to work on her parcel, and that's really a decision, or that disagreement needs to go to the courts. we're not a fiduciary body that's going to make a court decision. We will go off of what's on our application, what's on the drawings that we get, and say that if it's built this way, it's legal. But to actually go out and build on a parcel, if you're trespassing, that's a different branch of government, unfortunately, that has to deal with that. So, all right, I flipped to the next, and we talked about a commercial plan development earlier, and you'll get the text of the ordinance that's here with the different permitted uses and just a lot more data about it. And Sierra and Philip, I think Philip's on. If you all have comments you want to make, just feel free to jump in. So let's see. So in here, you're going to have, Eric's going to talk about everything from density and height, access. Those applications are going to have a lot of information, especially for these variances. They're going to be multiple pages long, and they're going to have everything all the way down to any special requirements, like under letter G. Any type of special requirements where they're going to require things. And generally speaking, when we are doing a rezoning or in some fashion, we are going to require a site plan, so we know where things are on that parcel, and we can make sure that that parcel doesn't change in such a way that it's going to be detrimental to city services and to the neighborhood. So, all right. So, in this slide is just showing what Haley sent to an applicant and provided them with information that they need. She also will put in there when we do staff reviews, we'll have staff comments, and they'll send them back to the applicant. In this case, it looked like they needed to have elevations. They also, when we rezone or do a council variance, we need to lower a BZA variance. We need to let parcel holders or parcel owners within 120 feet of that parcel know that this is up, that a certain parcel is up for consideration to be changed. We also obviously send the rezonings to you all. We hope that you all circulate those freely among your Facebook pages, email lists, or whatnot, because we're relying on you all. You all have the communication networks in your neighborhoods. We also do require the applicant to provide us with mailing labels for people within 120 feet of that parcel. So again, the code itself does not require a huge notification, physical notification. We hope to rely on you all to do that. Now, having said that, at some point here by the end of the year, some of you all participated in a zoning code or a zoning sign notification project 2 years ago now, before the pandemic, when it was successful. Basically, we would provide a sign to the applicant with the case number, like the Z20 number on here, and a phone number for people to call if they have questions about that rezoning. We will be codifying that towards the end of the year. Quite frankly, right now, I'm trying to limit the amount of foot traffic we have in our office, given the COVID and the Delta variant. We have put a lot of things online. We've actually gone from 200 people visiting our office every day down to about 50, because we've put a lot of things online. But by the end of the year, we'll do the signs. We will do the zoning signs and get those out there. And the applicant will be responsible for making sure they stay up. There's no cost to them. We just give it to them. Plus, when our zoning staff is out and about taking pictures of sites that are part of the applications, because they review things, based on what's coming up in the schedule, and a lot of times they'll slide by a parcel, make sure the sign is up. I couldn't tell you why it's only 125 feet, William. It's 125 feet from the exterior or the boundaries of that parcel. So the larger the parcel, potentially the larger number of people that will be that will be notified. That's something we can always consider. We can always consider in the zoning code update next year as we're making changes. But also, the larger the development, the larger the word of mouth, the larger amount of circulation you all will give it, and so a lot more people will know about it. But like I said, 125 feet is not adequate as far as folks are concerned. We can always look at that and change that. So that's part of the zoning code update. So, all right, the rezoning process. Like I said, we've got the applicant's submittal, basically digitally. They work with our staff to make sure that all the variances are accounted for. You all get a copy of the application, and we do a staff site visit, pictures of the property in the area, so that our staff can understand what's around it. And then we do our staff review to make sure we circulate it to all the different agencies that have to do it. And then our staff results letter is posted in the portal. Now, if you remember, I was talking earlier about asking you all to make decisions based on the variances. I also would ask you all try to get these done in the most expeditious fashion as possible. Obviously, these people are putting money and investments and time into wanting to develop a parcel. And so it's just right that we should get the reviews done in a timely fashion. But at the same time, you guys need to be able to have enough time to debate it and talk about it. But I just ask that we don't let it drag on for months at a time. While we're doing our staff site visit and staff review, the applicant should be reaching out to you all, going to area commission meetings, presenting to you all. And I will say this, many times some of the more smart applicants or the applicants that have hired representatives that are more knowledgeable in the system, I always suggest to them they come to you all before they even file with us, talk with you about what they want to do. And I encourage you all to hear them out and make suggestions, because at that point they haven't spent a lot of money on drawings and deciding on engineers on exactly where stuff's going to go. And that gives you the opportunity, if you hear them early, to hopefully influence the process or the project to something that you all can better support the variances for. Now, the one thing I will say is never, ever take a vote on a project unless you have an application from us. Because between the time they talk to you all about an initial project and they file with us, they could change things. Then they may not be changes you all like. And so never let any of these reps or applicants force you into taking a vote unless you want to. And I would always discourage a vote until you have an application from us and can say, Z20-029, we support it because we know what it's going to look like because we've got the application from BZS. But again, I do encourage working with and hearing the applicants out even before they have an application, and push back. If you think if you don't like what they're proposing, make a suggestion and see if they won't take some of those suggestions back and incorporate them. So this is a picture of the staff review results letter that we do. Obviously at the top has got all the administrative information. The bottom portion of it is different considerations and maybe issues that we have with it, things that we ask them to change. And so the staff review letter may provide a large amount of information back. It may also say, hey, we need to see other things like development planning. They want to see elevations so they can see what it's going to look like. The whole process, like I said, the two processes are going on simultaneously. And quite frankly, a lot of times on top of that, there's a third process out here, and that is a site plan going on, the negotiations, because it's necessary, but unfortunately getting through with sewers and drains, with how they're going to hold the rainwater and so forth, many times takes a couple of months to get through that process. So you've got different processes that are going on at the same time. You got your review, you got the BZS zoning staff review. You probably may have building plans reviewers looking at how they want to build a building, and then you've got outside of that, you've got these site plan folks that are working at the same time, trying to all get through. Now there is a hierarchy. The first thing that has to be done that can be approved is if they want a variance, that has to be in place before anything else on that parcel can happen. So I'm not going to issue building permits, I'm not going to issue site approval until the variance is approved. Once we get the variances approved, whether it's BZA or rezoning or a council variance, then the next thing is the site plan. I need to know where that building is going to go. I need to know how they're going to hold the rainwater. And many parts of our city, as I said earlier, are 100 years old, and we have a whole lot more impervious land. And so when it rains, our storm sewers don't have the capacity. So many times developments are having to install mechanisms to hold rainwater on site and release it slowly so it doesn't flood our storm sewer system. So site plan will come after the variance is allowed. Once the variance is approved, then the site plan. Once the site plan is approved, then the building plan itself. Now they could have building approval, but I'm not going to issue it until the first two steps are in place. It's just a way that we can ensure that they don't start building a building and then all of a sudden Sewers and Drains tells them, you got to move that building 10 feet over. Not very easy to move a building over after it started to be built. So we're doing that. All right. So there's the second part of that, that letter. The applicants can correspond back. You know, I see here they're talking about, she highlighted, an updated site plan has been submitted. So we've got to go back. Our staff has to look at that to make sure that that site plan is adequate. So, like I said, there's a number of correspondence. So, this form here, the standardized recommendation form, this is what you all, as an area commission, would get. This is what we ask you all to fill out. You can send it back to us electronically. That's fine with us. But this has all the different information we need on it, including what your votes are, the representative that is sending this to us, in this case, Amanda's with the zoning committee, and then a phone number in case we have questions about that. Like I said, we ask that you guys get this back to us. Like I said, you can do it electronically. You don't have to mail it in or something like that. But this way we know we've got all the information. Now, all of your meetings are open meetings because you all are extensions of city government. And so that's why we need the votes, we need the date of it, so that if there's something challenged down the road, we've got all the data and information. So the rezoning process, we may be starting to get a little redundant here, so I may jump a little bit here. Let's see. I guess the biggest piece in the review process is where the two stars are. You guys are looking at this from your community, from your neighborhood perspective. And we, the city, are looking at it from a larger perspective, citywide or at least region-wide within the city. So it is okay that we occasionally come to different conclusions as to whether it can be supported or not. So, like I said, don't ever feel like that we have to have the same recommendations, because we don't. Because like I said, we're looking at things differently. You all have a different perspective than we do. All right. So in the case of rezoning, it ends up going before the Development Commission. They meet once a month. There are supposed to be 7 members on there. Right now we've got 6, I believe. And we put out an agenda about a week in advance on our website. And this is the notice, the public hearing notice that gets circulated. And you can come, you can testify, Those meetings are live now. Right now, the state legislature is not giving us any options to do virtual public hearings at this point. At some point, maybe we will get it back, but to be able to do them virtually. But right now, it's got to be in person with a mask and everything. So let's see here. Just more than notice. And again, this is all posted in our portal. So if you all have an application that you've considered, then, you know, one, you can talk to the, I'm going to jump back to the top, right in the middle of the thing where it says planner. There's our planner in this case was Haley. Her phone number, her email is there. You can reach out to her and ask her to keep you in the loop when this is scheduled. Most of our planners, most of our planners for zoning keep a list of people they notify when the next step occurs with an application that they're interested in. So this is just a copy of the staff report. It's got the administrative details at the top for the Development Commission members to look at, the background, talk about where it is, location, the boundaries, what the boundary and what the CPD text talks about, what it establishes. So, and then the city department's recommendation. In this case, it was approval, and we'll put things in there about why we approve, why we feel it should be, we recommend approval. The same thing can be done with you all on your recommendation form. If there is a overarching reason why you all think it should be disapproved, add that in to that recommendation form so that the members of the Development Commission understand why you guys may not support whatever they want to do. The other thing is, if it is something that you all feel strongly about, have a member come down and represent the area commission at the Development Commission meeting. Don't have to come to all of them, but just on ones that you feel, either one, you feel strongly about supporting it, or B, feel strongly about disapproval or about disapproving it. All right. So at the Development Commission meeting, this is kind of the DC meeting, staff report is presented by staff. The applicant has a chance to provide testimony regarding what they want to do, talk about it, educate the members, the area commission members on it. Or the DC members, I misspoke there. Area commissions are allowed to provide testimony outside of the typical opponent-proponent testimony. So, area commission can make testimony. Proponents are allowed to speak. We do follow City Council's 3-minute rule, and I will. My suggestion to you all is if you all have something that you either support or don't support, and you've got a long narrative that you want the Development Commission members to understand, then have multiple people testify and just have them pick up. Someone will do the first third, someone will do the middle third, someone will do the last third of what you want the DC members to know about it. Okay, that way it's not repetitive, and you're being able to get more information to the Development Commission members. Then the DC members are going to talk about it. They're going to ask questions, and then they're going to vote on it. And then we will issue a results letter. That's the official outcome of the meeting. It will go to the applicant. It will be put on the Citizens Access portal. And from there, we'll do the ordinance preparation to get it over to City Council. This is a results letter here. That this is what will all be forwarded on over to council. I know that for rezonings and some council variances, council has been Councilmember Tyson, who's the zoning chair, has tried to work out with folks to get everybody happy, and that has had some good results, but it has also slowed down the process of variances being and rezonings being considered by council. Don't know what's going to happen in the new year because Councilmember Tyson is retiring, and Council President Hardin has not told us who he's going to appoint to be the new zoning chair. So we'll have to wait and see for that. I see Phil talked about the demolition permits. I'm going to deviate real quick here, talk about demolitions. You guys play a role in the demolitions. However, they don't go through our zoning group. They are strictly with our front counter staff. When somebody wants to demolish a building and not immediately put up a new building, they've got to get a demo permit. We have certain contractors that are allowed to do demolitions in the city, and we have certain criteria that parcel has to be taken to when that building is demolished. When we get a demo permit in, it is within 24 hours. It's emailed out to the area commission. It's an email with some links in it. You guys have 60 days you can either approve it right then and there, or you can work with the applicant, and there's a buffer of 60 days in which you can work with the applicant to perhaps try to save the building, adjust what they want to do with it to save portions of it, if people think it's a historically important building, that kind of thing. At the 60-day mark, the applicant can move forward with the demolition. Again, it's back to property rights, but we felt it was important a few years back to make that 60 days to try to work with an applicant to maybe save a building or adjust something differently to what they want to do. That permit or that the demolition form is part of the email, and when you respond to that, it actually goes right back to our front counter staff, and they either hold it for 60 days or they will issue the demo permit right away if you all approve it on the front end. So we're not seeing as many demolitions of single-family homes as we used to years ago. The people that are starting to want home ownership are liking these older homes, and they don't mind, and they're able to, because of the housing stock and the demand for housing, the value of these homes, even older but vacant homes, is so high that they can get equity and repair them, whereas 10 years ago, they didn't want to do anything but bulldoze everything and start fresh. And so it's interesting how things kind of evolve. Let's see. There's the second part of the results letter that talks about who voted how in there, and then a special note on there. This is what the ordinance is going to look like. That's going to go over to City Council. I'm not going to bore you too much with details. It's a lot of the same language that was in the previous forms and previous letters. All right. When ordinance goes over to council, and it's going to go through the zoning chair, they usually are going to have some meetings with the applicant to try to get people to try to change things so everybody's happy. There is a separate notice sent to nearby property owners. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little bit. So the nearby property owners will be notified again. They've got the 125 feet. Will get a mailing. Area commissions are obviously allowed and encouraged to testify. Opponents, proponents make their presentations, and then council will ultimately make their decision, and it'll be reflected in the zoning map. So, all right, let's see. Council variance, it's going to follow a similar route, except that it will not go to the Development Commission. It'll look for recommendation from you all, recommendation from us, and then it's going to head over across the street to council for approval or disapproval. And I'm going to skip through some of this because it's a little redundant. All right. So that's the public hearing side of things. That's dealing with rezonings and council variances. Having touched on Board of Zoning adjustment yet. All right. I am at this point, I think I actually have a little break set for later. But
Hey,
I'm
Tony.
well, don't mind, I'm going to take it now. I need to get a quick drink. So maybe we can reconvene here. Nobody has to leave the meeting or anything, but maybe about 10 after 10, unless there's unless there are some questions that people have. Or Philip, have you been covering a lot of the?
Tony, can you hear me?
Yep.
I do have a couple questions. We can tackle them now or when we come back.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do them right now.
You guys, this is Sarah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Sierra.
Okay, thank you. My phone was, or my audio is disconnected, so I lost everyone for a second.
Okay. All right. So what Philip is going to go through a couple of questions, and between the three of us, hopefully we can come up with an answer.
Yeah, we have a question from Katie McDevitt. She said, preemptive action. If a holding company owns a piece of commercial real estate that is currently hindering public safety, for example, visibility at a busy intersection, is there an injunction or recommendation commission or zoning can make prior to development, like requiring an increased setback? Preemptive action.
Okay, if we can't force somebody, if the building is, for lack of a better term, a non-conforming building, we can't tell them they've got to take the building down and move it. But if they are proposing, when they propose a change and they do a site plan, we are going to measure the vision triangles at the corners. Actually, zoning will measure, make sure that the vision triangles and setbacks are being adhered to. If they begin to build and aren't following those, our inspectors are going to catch that and stop the construction process and require them to come back and talk to us about why they're doing what they're doing. In my neighborhood, we've got a building that was built incorrectly. Actually, it's just a skeletal structure of it. Unfortunately, it's been like that for about 2 or 3 years because there's a longer fight about it. Sometimes you also will get, deviating a little bit from you, I know Westland is familiar with this. They've got a strip mall that a gentleman started building, and he is taking his time with it. And it is, we do require people to continue to move forward on their construction, but our requirements are rather light. But if they get to a certain point and they haven't done any type of progress, we can revoke their building or the building permits, and then they've got to come back and go through our processes again. So most places try to keep moving. Our building permits are good for a year of inaction, and then they've got to take some sort of action, otherwise it's going to expire. So hopefully I covered what you're looking for.
Thanks, Tony. Bill Logan asked, can commissions, development committees limit the number of applications heard at any one meeting without violating due process?
You can. I would, if you've got too many, I'd work with the applicants. Sometimes applicants are a little more flexible than others. Those that don't have a flexible timeline, I would encourage you to hear them as soon as you can. It's a balancing act. It's that you all are going to have to work with, respecting their private property rights and their interest in moving forward. But then we've also got to respect your time and energies. A 4-hour meeting is not something that people want to sit through. So just try to balance it as best you can.
Okay, thanks. What's the status of signs being posted outside of proposed projects? That was a pilot project that Council Activities was doing.
You mean if that's referencing the zoning notification signs, by the end of the year, I think we'll have that put into code and be handing those out to all applicants that are doing council variances, rezonings, or BZA actions, or graphics actions, for that matter.
Okay, that's all for now.
Okay. All right. Well, let's.
There does a question. It looks like, is it suggested then to have a special meeting to fit all the applications in?
You can. You all can have special meetings. You just need to make sure that you that you do whatever notification that you normally would do for a regular meeting. You do that well in advance of a special meeting because everybody's got to have the ability to participate in that. We can't just decide tomorrow we're going to have a meeting to consider 4 or 5 applications. So we do need to just make sure that you give maybe a week's notice and go from there. If you're in doubt with that, you can talk to your liaison. I know they've been trained by the city attorney's office, and you can also talk to the city attorney's office if you got questions on that. No. All right. Well, let's take a break till 10:15, and I will be right back, and we'll go from there. I know some folks are still coming back, but we'll go ahead and get started a little bit. I know Philip and Sierra are going to jump in here as I begin. Let's see here. All right. Let me share my screen again. All right. Everybody's got my zoning section slide up? All right. So, we talked about council activities of rezones and council variances. The other side of the zoning shop deals with development standards, or the Board of Zoning Adjustment and Graphics Commission. And they deal with, they all, like I said, the development standards are for BZA, graphics are with signage, and then BZA also does special permits. So, let's see if we can get it here. So, all right. So, do you mind just starting us off on BZA?
Sure. Thanks, Tony.
Now, I want to be nice to them because both Phil and Sierra, I'm putting them on the spot here. They were expecting to work behind the scenes, and I decided I'd offer them some slides or some speaking time. So,
no problem at all. Just a bit about me. I've been in Columbus for 10 years, and I've been with the BZA and Graphics Commission for just over 2.5 years. And Sierra's with me. She just joined us a couple months ago during the pandemic. So let's give it a shot. So BZA considers variance requests for different development standards like you see on the slide here, and special permits. You've probably seen junkyards, recently medical marijuana dispensaries, impound lots, things like that, and also appeals to violations and certain decisions from our department.
So, as a matter of fact, a couple of things for folks to remember. A lot of the special permits are things that are kind of rather objectionable uses, and the BZAs to consider those and allow people to know that they're going in. I'm going to deviate here, but you all have been patient with my deviations here throughout the morning. But one of the things, when you have a residential parcel, there is a certain buffer requirement between certain manufacturing uses. As you can see, the slide here shows probably an area east of town, which was, again, developed 100 years ago, where residential was right next to manufacturing. When somebody does a council variance and puts residential on manufacturing parcels, those residential don't enjoy the same protection from manufacturing uses if they got a rezoning. And I guess I'll point out a couple areas, like the brewery district is almost all still manufacturing. The Jeffrey Place just north of downtown in Italian Village is still all manufacturing, and they got council variances. And so we just developers need to be aware of that. And you all too, if you're considering a council variance, you know, I'd ask them, why aren't you rezoning? See what they say. And then two more pieces. One on medical marijuana dispensaries. They do require a special permit. The state is getting ready to release another round of dispensaries. Chris Presutti, the chief zoning official, and I have been fielding phone calls on any number of locations throughout the city that people want to apply with the state to be a medical marijuana dispensary. I would recommend if you all get one of those applications, because you're most likely going to, or if you hear one's going to be in your area commission boundaries. I'd take a look at some of the 7 that we have in the city already. I have worked with the police department on a couple of informal studies, trying to just make sure to see whether they're concerned about crime and other pieces. And so far, everybody's been good players, except one, and the state pulled their license and gave it to somebody else at the same location. But those are going to be coming back. They are going to be required or asking for support from you all. So if you've got more questions about those, I was the point person for the city on the medical marijuana stuff here. Started like 3 years ago. So I can usually answer most of those questions. And then Phil talked about consider appeals to violations. Those violations are code enforcement violations. Code enforcement here in 2 weeks will be, about 2 weeks, will actually be transferred out of the Department of Development and into the Building and Zoning Services. We used to be partnered with them when we were in development before we broke out 10 years ago. And the mayor decided it is a good time to move code enforcement over to BZS. So while you guys, I know you guys, a lot of you all have good, close relationships with your code officers, they will be reporting to us here and working with us, which actually will be much more efficient for a lot of the things going on, a lot of things that they enforce. So anyhow, 2 pieces of nuggets. Sierra, I'll let you kind of cover the graphics and any pieces you want to make sure people are aware of.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, perfect. And Phil, just chime in if you can. I'm Sierra. I've been with the city since end of April, so I'm still fairly new, still learning. But yeah, so as Phil mentioned, we have the BZA, we also have the Graphics Commission, and they hear things for signs or banners, graphics on windows, graphic plans. So could be that somebody wants 2 signs facing the same street, or they want their banners to be up longer. So that's what the Graphics Commission typically hears. And Phil, do you have anything you want to add?
I'll just quickly say graphics plans, if you're not too familiar with those, that is a kind of CPD type zoning action that would cover certain situations where they're proposing a plethora of signs, like a whole development, they need a bunch of signs. And they usually propose a graphics plan when they want a comprehensive plan to be in place, and it also has reduced, or I should say, more restrictive standards than usual is when they want to submit a graphics plan, or if they're required in certain situations, like from a rezoning, might require a graphics plan, or if they have roof signs, for example. So they can either choose, voluntarily to do a graphics plan, or they might be required to.
Think about it like this. You've only got so many seconds to read a sign as you're driving down the road. And if there's a sign that's got 12 businesses listed on there, it's going to take you longer to see if the business you're looking for is in that shopping center, or and thus your eyes are off the road longer than they need to be. And so part of the graphics code is trying to allow people enough time to look to see if the business they're looking for is there, but not so long as their eyes are off the road and distracted too long, and they end up having an altercation with another vehicle. So that's kind of that. Also, there's a level of trying to keep the character of our neighborhood and not turn it into a corridor of signs and nothing else. So, so that's part of the reason for the graphics. Now, to some degree, if I remember right, we can, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, we cannot regulate what is on a sign. We can just regulate where the sign is and where and how much text is on the sign. That was a Supreme Court ruling here about 4 years ago, I think, that did that, because we had to redo a bunch of the graphics. So, all right. So we've got the process here. And again, you know, the applicant's going to come in and meet with Phil or Sierra, and they're going to help make sure that they've got everything they need. That application is going to go into the citizens portal, and at that point, it's going to break off into the 2 tracks. One track is going to be going to the area commissions for your review, your recommendation to about whether you're good with it or not. And the other side is going to be the staff. Our staff's going to have a site visit. They're going to do reviews, and then we'll finalize the agenda, and the staff report will go on to the portal, and then we end up with the meeting that will hopefully have your recommendation, our recommendation, and the BZA or the Graphics Commission will make a determination and move forward. No Development Commission meeting involved, no council meeting involved whatsoever with BZA or Graphics. So both of those are decision-making bodies, and the only thing to appeal, the applicant can't appeal from there to the Court of Common Pleas, if I remember right. Is it, guys, Court of Common Pleas?
Sorry, what was that, Tony?
There's one court. What's that?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you asked.
The appeal from BZA or Graphics is to the Court of Common Pleas. Okay.
That's
so
correct.
There is recourse there to the courts if they don't like, or they think we did something wrong, or they don't like the results. But generally speaking, you know, once it gets in front of BZA or Graphics, we've usually vetted it and gotten it to the point where it can be acceptable by folks. You know, I know one of the things to remember is that we don't want to spend time on one of our commissions like BZA or Graphics talking about and debating something that we don't think is going to pass. So a lot of times, while it looks like those hearing bodies approve everything that goes before them, that's usually because we provide them with only the applications that have been worked out and are in agreement. Again, like I said, generally speaking, you don't want to waste time by pushing an application forward if it's going to be a no. Because once they get a no, they've got to start all over in the process again if they want to try something different. So, like I said, while it looks like they and BZA, you know, BZA and Graphics or even, you know, the Development Commission, they sometimes disagree with our recommendation or disagree with your recommendation. But overall, the majority of those cases that go before them have been worked out and hammered out beforehand so that folks are relatively, you know, comfortable with them. You know, they always, the saying is that a good compromise is where everybody's a little bit unhappy. So, and that's kind of the way some of the sausage making has to occur with the city. So, all right. So, so this is just some of the lists of some of the review agencies that look at the BZA and the Graphics. just as they do with our site plans and other pieces. Big one being planning division. I see Mark Travillis has joined us because he'll be talking a little bit about how planning goes about their reviews of these applications and variances. But, you know, traffic management is how does traffic come in and out, you know, division of power, sewers and drains, rec and parks, all these folks, you know, we coordinate the process. And all these groups have, all these agencies have a certain time frame that they have to review. I think it's, at least with site plans, it's 12 days. Second review or third review is 6 days. They've got to have their decisions back to us. Otherwise, they kind of forfeit their ability to be part of the recommendation process. So,
Hey, Tony, if I may.
yes.
I just wanted to mention a couple scenarios that would cause an applicant to need a variance. There's a couple scenarios that would trigger this process, and Tony talked about the permitting process would be kind of the main trigger for needing to start the variance. You start your permit and then you find out you need a variance, so then it gets triggered. Some other scenarios might be going from non-conforming legal, we talked about that earlier, to then losing your status of non-conformity. And usually that happens when something is changing on the site, whether that's, you know, you're adding parking, you're putting down some kind of surface, or you're changing from manual changeable copy for a graphic to automatic changeable copy that changes the type of sign that it is. And so if a sign was legal non-conforming, it then would lose that status and it would cause them to come need a variance. Or code enforcement would be another avenue that, you know, because of the complaint-driven system, you might not be in violation until it's brought up, and then a complaint is submitted, and then you have to go through this process just because of how that works. So those are just a couple scenarios besides the scenario of just starting from zero and building something new.
Exactly, definitely.
Tony, not to interrupt, somebody is trying to get into the meeting. I don't know if the host needs to let them in. Looks like Dana Dorsey.
All right. I know Tony is on here, Tony Gillum. Maybe she can let her in, because it shouldn't have been oh, you know what? I wonder if she was trying to get into a different meeting. There shouldn't be a buffer. Everybody that comes into this.
Yeah, they should be.
I'll see if I can figure it out.
Sierra, why don't you see if you can send her your forward her your invitation, email it to her, and have her, and maybe that way she can jump in. So, let's see. Looks like Bill Logan's got a question: how to limit the proliferation of auto-changeable copy signs, digital billboards. Billboard companies are converting fixed billboards to digital. So that is a challenge, Bill. We are seeing more digital signs because, quite frankly, they're easier. They're easier for the companies to switch out the advertisement, and also, quite frankly, easier to maintain, I think. They are supposed to have the graphics code does require them to dim a certain amount at night and so forth. So that could be a good discussion for our zoning code update. Because I know there are a lot of folks that are not thrilled with the amount of digital and changeable copy billboards. So not a very good answer, not a full answer, but it's something we can do. That's one path that we can work on it. So, all right. So Area Commission review and recommendation for BZA and graphics. Very similar to what we talked about for rezoning. You guys will get the application from us. There's a planner listed on there. They're the ones that you should communicate directly with. I know many of you guys have bylaws that dictate how and when you hold the different hearings, and as long as you follow your bylaws and have the public meetings, which are public meetings, then you'll be in compliance, and city attorney will be happy with us, and we can keep moving forward. So, and I'll hit it's a very similar sheet, recommendation sheet for these as it was for the council variance and rezonings. The other part is, and I mentioned this earlier, but I'll mention it again, you guys have great communication networks in your area. Feel free to share these packets with anybody and everybody. These packets are public documents. Have people look at them, send them out there, whatever you want to do with them. Share them as widely as you can, because everybody in the neighborhood, everybody in the community should have a say, or at least know what's going on in their community. Again, sometimes our boards don't do what you may want them to do, or we may want them to do. Ultimately, they're the ones that need to make these decisions. That's going to actually segue into one piece I want to mention here real quick as soon as I do this. Standardized recommendation form that we need you all to make sure you get back to us in a timely fashion. And if that goes to the planner, there's also on the form, there's a generic zoning info at columbus.gov. You can always send the forms and anything to that, and it'll get to the right planner if you don't know it. And as I said earlier, having a representative from the Area Commission in attendance whenever the BZA or graphics is hearing a variance is helpful, because if no one's there that can say, I represent, XYZ Area Commission, then our board members have to just they have to figure out what you all may be thinking based just on that recommendation form. I'd rather have you all have more time to talk and share your thoughts with the board members than for them to just have to learn it off a single sheet of paper. So, and of course, there's a standardized recommendation form. If you all don't have it, you can send an email to the zoning info, or send it to me, and we'll get you a copy of it. But usually, one of these should come with every variance application. So.
Hey, Tony.
Yep.
I'll just add on the standardized recommendation form, just to reiterate, if you can provide any kind of basis in these notes, that would be super helpful, just so that the BZA or Graphics Commission have something that's representative of your meeting, to know what the concerns were, even if it's just support, not just negative if it's non-support, but also what was good about the support. And also, if you can provide any conditions that you think would mitigate the variance, anything development standards wise that we can use as a condition to recommend to the board. Yes, we support this application, but we would really like them to put some landscaping in this location. Then we as staff can present that condition to the BZA and say, hey, maybe you want to consider this condition. It came straight from the Area Commission. We can actually use that.
Definitely. If you all, what Phil talked about with, trying to mitigate the impact in the area, if you all are disapproving of something, give the board members something to grab onto, to hang their hat on. If they're on the fence, they may be looking for a reason to justify their no vote. You guys can be the ones to give them that reason in that in that notes section on the standardized form. So.
And Phil, I don't know if Phil was at the meeting, but we just had a controversial case where they did bring up the notes and what the area commission wrote. So it's definitely important.
Definitely. The more you can communicate, the better off we all are, and your views will be considered and be understood. That's the key. So, Phil, do you know? All right, I'm going to claim ignorance here. RCOs, I should know what that is in the chat box.
Will RCOs be allowed to expand after the zoning code update? RCOs are on hold for Morse Road. I'm not sure what's meant by on hold, and I can't say what direction RCOs will go with the zoning code update. Commercial overlays have been written by the planning division, just for background, in the past.
Yeah, I think, Bill, part of that, and I'm sure Mark can probably address some of that here in a few minutes when he gets the floor. But I think, we've got to see we've got a whole lot of different overlays and that are not always consistent with each other because they've been done in different time frames and time periods. So I don't remember whether the consultant with phase one directly addresses those or just makes some broad statements about where we should go with that. So not a very good answer for your question there. And then let's see, Andrea asked about do billboards follow the changeable copy signs requirements in order to have automatic? I don't know whether Phil or Sierra, you might be able to answer that one. I cannot. What Andrea Russell about changeable copy signs. Andrew, we'll have to look into that. Let's see. If something passes 4-3 or something, you can, again, as Phil said, you can put anything in that note section that you think is pertinent to, and the ITC already answered it, anything you think is pertinent for the commissioners to know on Development Commission. And of course, this form is going to go follow the packet to City Council if it's there, or if it's BZA and graphics. So.
Yeah, and I also just wanted to touch base on if I'm looking at how to be communicated if there's a mixed view and other commissioners attend the BZA to support. I mean, you could always write the planner of the project. We do put supplemental materials together that would go to the BZA or the Graphics Commission, and they would see that some of the area commission members were not in support of this. So that's always an option.
Definitely. And if the commission's got, if the area commission is split, but you still take, obviously you take your vote and this goes there, be upfront with whether BZA, graphics, or Development Commission that you guys are split on it, and you can present the different views. Again, whoever is there talking is going to get heard and understood probably a little bit better than a piece of paper. So,
yeah.
And if you all do have a split commission, one of the things I would do would be you get both sides together. That's going to come down to either the BZA or DC and talk about how you guys are going to handle the fact that your commission is split on it, and maybe share the floor with your two sides and just up front with the commissioners, and one presents why people like it, one presents why the others don't, and let the chips fall where they may. Try not to get into, I'm up here representing the commission, we support it, it's great, and then the next person comes up, I represent the commission, and we hate it, it's terrible, the end of the world's coming. That's going to almost cancel each other out, and the board, BZA or Development Commission members are going to kind of tune out at that point. So try to make it as informative as possible with the points, and try to show some coordination within your area commission. It will just make things a little easier for them. All right. And Mark, if you want to, Mark Drillis, I saw you jump in if you've got something that you can help address if you want. Go for it.
Sure, Andy, you're talking about on the regional commercial overlay business?
Yes, yes.
Sure, in short, it's planning's perspective that standards that are currently represented in really all of our overlays, including the regional commercial overlay, should be considered for inclusion in the city's base zoning code. And so, as Bill mentioned, we have indicated we're holding on the initiation of any new overlay requests because we're currently focusing our energy on support for the zoning code update itself. And it's a tough message, I understand, because everything moves slowly, but everything also takes time on staff's behalf and the community's behalf. So we have planned a policy that recommends the overlay standards, for example, on 161 in Northland, so we could lean on those plan policies in the case that somebody has a request. And in the now thankfully getting closer run, we're going to focus on the zoning code itself and really make the case that those standards should be built into the zoning code citywide. So that's the short answer on that.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. One last piece for all of you all. We're talking about Development Commission and Board of Zoning Adjustment and Graphics Commission, and of course, Mark's got a lot of the architectural review commissions under him. If you all have folks that are members of your area commission that you think would make good members for these different commissions, for our stuff like BZA and Graphics and Development Commission, let me know. Code does require certain backgrounds or area of expertise to some degree for these members, but we're always looking for people that would want to serve on some of these boards to help make decisions and drive the city forward. So I will say is you can't be on one of our boards and a commissioner on an area commission because you can't double up like that. But I know every area commission has got a handful of other people that are helping everything move forward, that are very involved in their neighborhood, and they might make good members. All of our commissions that we're talking here meet once a month, different times during the month. They're all the same time, but BZA meets like the fourth Tuesday at 4:30. Development Commission meets, I think, the first Thursday of the month, things like that. Those dates and times are on our website, and I think you're paid a whopping $30 for your time for each commission meeting. But again, it's another way to participate and be part of it. So right now, it's been all over the place with time frames. And Phil and Sierra can probably talk better to graphics. BZA is come down a bit, and Development Commission for the time requirement has gone up. They are hearing a dozen cases in a night, so they might be here for 3 hours or so. And Phil, I don't know how long BZA has been recently, but you guys have been handling 9 or 10 cases. So it can be multiple hours in the evenings, and that's part of the reason why we're trying to adjust the code so that we don't need as many variances. That by right is what is supported by you all in the communities. All right. At this point, I don't have anything. I've got one more piece after this, but I'm going to let Mark Drillis, who is the administrator for the Department of Development Planning Division have the floor. And I think, I don't know whether you can go ahead and whether you can share or not. Why don't you give it a try, Mark?
Okay, sure. Let me see how well I do. I've got a couple of things, but this is my starting slide. Can everybody hear me and see these slides?
I hear you loud and clear, Mark.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Again, I'm Mark Dorvillis. As Tony said, I'm the Planning Division Administrator. And I have, I believe, 12 or 15 slides that I'm going to click through, and I'm going to take a shot at showing a couple-minute video at one point. We'll see if I get that done or not. But what I was going to talk about is land use planning, Columbus citywide planning policies, and how we use those documents in order to do our review of rezonings and variances and graphics applications. So basically where we fit in the process. And see if I could click through. Okay. So I'll start by talking about the planning division a little bit itself, and then Columbus citywide planning policies. And then we've got a few examples of cases that we've reviewed over the years, and I just thought I'd use them as samples. Planning division, I think, as many of you know, we're part of the development department, and our primary functions are working with you all, with Columbus communities, to develop land use plans. And then we use these plans in order to review development applications as they come in. And they're used particularly to comment on rezonings and variances. And that's what I'll be talking about. As Tony mentioned, we also staff 12 other boards, commissions, and panels. So most commonly known, the Victorian, Italian, German Village Brewery District, HRC, but also the University District Review Board, East Franklinton Downtown, and a couple of panels, the Public Art Commission. We do small scale capital improvement planning also in some neighborhoods called UIRF, and we manage the city's public art program. It's a mention here, I'm not going to go to it, but we like to plug our Columbus Planning Academy, which is a video series that we developed, and it touches on a number of the topics that I'll mention today, and we just think it's a good resource for neighborhood leaders, particularly when it comes to the process of doing a land use plan. And it is the one video I'll try to show is from our Columbus Planning Academy. So, Columbus citywide planning policies, C2P2. Hopefully, several of you, if not all of you, have heard of it. It's something that we initiated a few years back, and is a new approach to land use planning that we're doing. It creates a framework, or we see a base for future planning, and it is based on really 10 plus years, I would argue probably more like 20 plus years of planning that we've done in Columbus neighborhoods. It was adopted in 2018 by City Council. As I mentioned, it's the starting place for new land use plans. And really, it consists of three primary parts. One is guiding principles, design guidelines, and land use policies. Excuse me. The guiding principles are just that. They're really big picture ideas about how development should occur as envisioned by Columbus citywide planning policies in the city. Since the city's 1993 comprehensive plan, we did not have citywide adopted policies or guiding principles about development in the city. And the city has changed tremendously in 30 years. So some big picture ideas, without citing the specifics about how the city should be striving to be a more sustainable city, should be more walkable, should consider historic preservation, where development should be focused and where it should not be focused, the inclusion of open space and parks. These are all part of the guiding principles that are now adopted by council. The design guidelines, which we're really proud of and are, I think, most relevant to this discussion, we used really our 20 years of plans, and then we also did considerable research on best practices throughout the country on design guidelines that could be used to guide new development as it occurs. And these are design guidelines that many communities have endorsed in a fashion that we call early adoption. Others have not. But it is a tool that is at your disposal if your community has not endorsed them. And really, all it takes is the area commission or given body to say, we endorse this. And it gives the planning division the ability to use these design guidelines and you to use them in order to review future development. The land use policies really get put into place when we engage specifically with the community on the development of a land use plan. This is a 1 to 2 year process that we do. And I noted here that, like the overlays, we are currently not conducting any land use planning because really, again, we are saving our focus for the zoning code update in the near future. But the early adoption of the design guidelines is something that we can work with communities on. We encourage you to take advantage of that if you haven't already. So as it relates to this morning and rezoning and variance case review, we review every rezoning and variance graph, the BZA graphics case that the city, that every application there is. And what we use is any adopted plan in your neighborhood or citywide, Columbus citywide planning policies if they've been endorsed for that review. These comments are included in a report that's provided to BZS and the process that Tony has been talking about. And these comments are based in policy. The plan language is policy, it's not code. And oftentimes our initial comments then spur a series of discussions with a given applicant in order to, work towards resolution. And our comment, as Tony said about compromise, we argue that oftentimes this review results in a better project. Oftentimes, neither an applicant or community is satisfied. It's a matter of compromise. And this is the time when I'm going to try to show our video, and I really can't see people too well. So if for some reason the video isn't showing or the audio isn't working, if you'll please just interrupt and let me know, so I'll see how it goes. And this is you should be seeing the full screen on YouTube, and I'm going to start it now. It's about 2.5 minutes.
Columbus Citywide planning policies and C2 plans.
I've seen the video, Mark.
Is that right?
If it opens up
I think you might
a
need to
different
stop
program.
sharing and reshare with a different video.
Okay. Thank you. I am going to try that. If it doesn't work, then I'm going to move on. But I will try one more time. Are you seeing that now? Okay.
Columbus Citywide planning policies and
Perfect.
land use plans are most typically implemented in the development review process. As city policy, these documents are used as the basis for review and comment on development proposals that require a zoning change or variance from existing zoning standards. Remember, city policy does not apply to uses and standards that are already permitted by the zoning code for a given site. City staff use both C2 policies and design guidelines to review zoning and variance applications. These policies are like two sides of the same coin. Together, they help guide and shape thoughtful, appropriate development. As we've discussed throughout the Columbus Planning Academy, land use recommendations address use. For example, a shopping center or apartment complex, while design guidelines address how the site functions and interacts with adjacent development. Area commissions and civic associations may also use the policies to review development. To review a zoning or variance application for consistency with the land use plan, follow these steps. Identify the location on the map. Use the classification table to determine the recommended land use based on color. Look up the related land use policy text. Refer to the design guidelines and determine if there is any area-specific policy that applies. The land use recommendation and area-specific policy may also be determined by using the city's online web application titled CSIR, C-S-I-R. Planning staff also use the adopted plan to comment on rezoning and variance applications. Staff reviews each case for consistency with the plan recommendations. Staff comments will generally be either support, non-support, support with conditions, or will ask for more information. In cases where staff is not in support, applicants will often make changes to a proposal in order to gain staff support. If the changes are consistent with plan recommendations, staff will move to support. Comments from the Planning Division are presented to the Development Commission, the Board of Zoning Adjustment, and the Graphics Commission, along with comments from other departments. Congratulations, you've completed Columbus Planning. I hope this course has provided you a better understanding of citywide planning policies, how land use plans are developed, and how a land use plan can be used to shape development in your area. If you'd like to learn more about Columbus citywide planning policies, please visit our webpage at www.columbus.gov/.
I'm going to go back to my slides now. So just a couple of notes. That was Christopher Lohr from our staff, who hopefully several of you know, or if not, you might email with. Christopher is our point person on reviewing rezonings and variances. Mark Roston from our staff works closely with him. And as I'll say later, any and all of you should feel free to contact him or any of us at any point. But the video really sort of summarizes how we do business. And again, there's additional resources at the site that was mentioned. So I just thought I'd go through, I think I've got maybe 4 or 5 more slides now, and I thought I'd go through a few examples and talk about how our review occurred. First question for us is always, does the site require rezoning? Again, because we don't see it otherwise. The rezoning or variance is the basis for our comments. And the plan, which is adopted by council, is the legal basis for us having the ability to make a comment. So if it requires a rezoning, then we look, as it was said on the video, of what is the plan recommended for land use, and we go to CSIR as our site, Columbus Site Information Resource. And in this case, this is a site that was in Clintonville on Indianola to the North Broadway. It was on the site of the former Olympic pool. And the plan recommended mixed use. So from our perspective, the use was supportable because mixed use could include multi-unit, multi-family development and or retail office uses. And this is a retail apartment mix. And then, so beyond that, really then the conversation often becomes focused on design matters. And this was a pretty long drawn out application, both in the community and with us. And I'm going to make just one comment. And one was, through the plan review, one piece that planning negotiated for was sort of the cutouts in this building that provides open space on the ground level. And that was a key piece for us that moved us to support on this application. Oftentimes, applications are denser than what is proposed. The plan allows for flexibility, and the flexibility is usually and always tied towards how is a design enhancement being utilized in order to, we use the term, mitigate the impact of the density. So that was that's one example. Another example is on the south side. I believe this is Schumacher. And this case, we have really seen multiple inquiries and proposals over a period of years. This was the one that was eventually approved and was built. The plan recommends medium high density residential, so a pure residential use, but at densities medium high, I believe it was 10 to 16 units an acre was the plan recommendation. This proposal was coming in at more like 20 units an acre. There was a number of negotiations that occurred on our part, and I know in the neighborhood on the design, they ultimately moved us to support based on the design, which we thought they made some moves that really enhanced its compatibility with the adjacent development. Next one is in Franklinton, more recent, and this is existing Starling Middle School, and some of you may be familiar with this. The plan in place recommended institutional because at the time the plan was done, this school was there. It's an institutional use. The proposal was for multifamily for housing, and it included both housing in this school and some adjacent properties where there was going to be some new construction. And in this case, two important points I wanted to make. One was most of our plans now, certainly our recent ones in Columbus citywide planning policies, include language for institutional sites that allow for different uses to be considered. The reason why is because you know that there's a number of schools and church buildings and others that exist within neighborhoods, and oftentimes they are proposed for alternative uses. The church leaves, the school leaves, what have you. We're believers in these institutional uses certainly being key parts of our neighborhoods, but we can't control when the given body leaves. And so really the plan needs to have a viable recommendation for alternatives. And the recommendation is basically provides us a series of considerations and questions. And in this case is, compatibility and so forth. So we thought that the multifamily proposal was an appropriate reuse of the building. And the crucial aspect was that the developer was proposing the preservation of the historic structure. That is a major consideration for us in this and other cases. So we move to support. And finally, the University District. This is known as Pavey Square now, and these are some of the existing structures that are on High Street. This was a BZA case. It initially did not start as a BZA case. The only permission they required was a certificate of appropriateness from the University Impact District Review Board. But through the negotiations, the only variance they needed was to address the existing setback to these structures. And long and short of it is the planning division's negotiation and the communities was to preserve these structures that are out front and allow for development that occurred behind these buildings. And again, the preservation of these structures was a crucial element that resulted in the planning division's support of the application, and this is now built. All of the design guidelines are in our adopted plans, and they are all available at our website, columbus.gov/planning. And we mentioned the CSER site also, and the link is there. And through CSER, you're able to find out the land use recommendation for any given site. You can do an address search, and there is also a link to the document itself. Summary is we always encourage area commissioners to review their area's plan policies and design guidelines for each case. That's what we do. We encourage you to do the same. It is the city adopted policy for your given area, and it is the legal foundation for comments. And that these comments should relate back to the given request. We do our best to hold our feet to the fire. We have to, and we encourage you to do the same thing. The comments on a case should relate to the actual request. So if it's a setback request, there could be a design-related matter that is impacted by that setback request. But to the degree possible, we don't mix in input on a given project that has nothing to do with the given request or the given plan recommendation. And again, the land use policies here are for rezonings or council variances, and the design guidelines really could apply to, you know, virtually all cases. Contact information for us is planninginfo@columbus.gov. That's an email address that will be seen by Christopher Lohr and Mark Roston and myself. All three of us see us. So it's really the easiest way that if you have a question or comment on a given case or anything in general, really you could use that email, and we'll make sure it gets to the right person and get back to you all. Those are my slides for this morning, and you know, appreciate the opportunity to speak about it. And Tony, I'm not sure if there's anything else you wanted me to comment on or cover, or if I'd be happy to field any questions if this is the right time.
Yeah, go ahead. If folks have got some questions, either throw them in the chat or just go ahead and speak up.
Yes, I'm going to there's an ask for the email address, and I will put it in the chat here. It's planninginfo@columbus.gov. So,
and I believe you sent me your slides, didn't you? I believe you sent me your slides, didn't you?
Yes.
So I'll make sure those get out to everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. You guys always play a big role and sometimes a lot of questions. So appreciate your time this morning.
Absolutely. I am going to duck out if you all don't mind. I'm gonna put in some cord around in a bedroom. So I'm going to work on I hope you get your project soon. I appreciate you letting me duck out, and everybody have a good day.
No problem. Thanks, Mark. All right. So we are in the home stretch here. I'm going to share another screen with you all. And what this is going to this segment is going to focus on the citizens portal that is on our website and how to get information out of that. And again, all of these slide decks, I will get them out to folks either today or Monday. It just depends on how much time I've got at the end here. So this slide right here is a really good, just kind of over a huge high level. So most larger developments, I'm not talking about the single family house that may be built here, there, or info, but some sort of development where it's multiple units, it's going to be commercial, going to be an apartment complex, they're going to have a preliminary site plan meeting, which, if you remember, is that no-cost meeting to a developer. They can go in and they can get some initial comments from all the city staff that are going to ultimately review that plan, that project. From there, they're going to learn if they need zoning variances, and if so, part of the project's going to veer off to get those zoning variances and start the different paths, whether it's council variance, BZA, graphics, or rezoning. That's where you guys are going to come in. There's another track, which is a site plan. That is, as you remember, is basically building walls out. How does that building sit on that parcel? How are we going to connect it into into the sewers and drains, how's traffic going to be there? All those types of things are going to be going on the site plan track to figure out to get that all negotiated. Third track is the building plan. How are they going to connect the boards together to make a safe building? That's the third track. So we've got the three track, zoning, site plan, and building going on at the same time. Once those are completed, and if you remember, they have to have the zoning done first, then they can get a site plan approved, then they can get the building plans. Then they start building their building, and they start developing their parcel. There are inspections that are conducted throughout that whole process to make sure what's being built, where it's built, how it's built, all match these three different processes that have been approved. Ultimately, the applicant is going for the certificate of occupancy, and they've got that's what they're going for. So you also excuse me, I've got to do this way, so don't anybody get seasick on me here. So our zoning map, which, and the address is here, and the address is in a couple of different places at the end of the slides. Our zoning map, our GIS map, covers the whole city. Every parcel in our city is assigned a zoning district, and represented by different colors. You can click on it, and you're going to get the zoning report down the right side that talks about the address and the parcel number, the county it's in. Because don't forget, Columbus extends into 3 different counties now. It's also going to talk about if there's a variance on it, if it's in the short north special parking area, there's a BZA. Ultimately, if you go down, there will be a place for area commission that pops up also. So that's how you can get a lot of information. I always tell people the parcel ID number is the best reference point to use for any of these applications that you all get. If you can get the parcel number, that's what was best to use. Now, this is our, I'm sharing. Okay. For a second, I didn't think I was sharing my screen here. This is our homepage, columbus.gov /BZS. Down here at the bottom, there is a red box that says Citizen Access Portal. That is how you get into our computer management system. So you click on that, and you're going to get a screen that says Search for Records. And again, parcel number is going to be the best thing you can do. If you have a specific case number, like a Z20-029, you can put it in the record number and you'll get it. However, that will not show you everything that is associated with that parcel. So if there's a site plan, if there's a building plan going on at the same time, that's not going to show up. That's why I always say go down to the parcel number, which is just below the project name, and put in the parcel number. I don't advocate using start dates or end dates unless you're trying to find a series of applications in a particular area, but even that's going to be difficult to get to. All right, so here's a little bit more of that general search. So you got the record number at the top, but like I said, parcel number is key. I would not use street direction, east, west, north, south. I would not use suffix type either. The more information you put into our search, the more narrow that search is going to be. And I always advocate doing a shotgun approach. Get as many things that are close to what you want, then whittle it down to exactly what you want. Because if you start narrow, what you want may be outside of that search criteria, and you'll never know it. So that's my one big suggestion. So in this case, we brought up in our record numbers, the first 2 numbers are going to be the calendar year that was applied for. In this case, 601 represents a site plan for 457 Cleveland Avenue. and then the 5 digits after that are the actual is the actual plan. So you need all of those, all 10 numbers to search this out. But I'll just explaining what the different numbers mean. So as you can see in this, you'll get, when you do your search, you're going to get record info, payments, customer component. It's going to give you the work location, that's the address. Down below, it's going to have a project description, the applicant, so you know who's doing it. And then in this case, the owner is down below. And the owner is actually different from the applicant. The owner is having the applicant, EP Ferris, apply for this site plan. And if you hit the more details, it'll give you, if there's any additional information, it'll line up below you. Now, next step, and I will send you this whole, all of these screenshots so that you can walk yourself through it. But I thought I'd go through it. If you've got some, questions as we go along here, let me know. We can try to add, we can try to answer them. So, information that you're going to be interested in is going to be under the Record Info tab. So you hit that down, and it's going to give you record details, processing status, related records, and attachments. So this is processing status. This is telling you where it is in our review process. They've submitted an application, review coordination, that's an internal action here, design and construction review, engineering is the site plan, floodplain's done their review on it, fire, so all these different groups that have to do review on this 601, the site plan, have done it. And we have zoning does their reviews within site plan and within the building plan review process to make things a little bit more streamlined. So if on that, the black triangle, if you click on it, you'll see the zoning review for this was done in February 25th. It was assigned to CL. I know that's Christine Lee. Of course, you can see that right by the next thing when she marked who's reviewing it. And then she has comments that she put in on March 2nd. Those comments are going to be in the attachment letter that I'm going to show you here in a moment. So review coordination, essentially that is us telling, that's when we got all of our comments together and we shift them back to the applicant. So we're back to the general info page, and you remember the record info tab up there at the top. Well, if you clicked on that little blue triangle, you will have an option of attachments. So these are different attachments. You've got the electronic plans that they've submitted. You've got the site development application, and then you have. We do a lot of plans electronically, where the markups are actually on electronic. So we've got the marked plans, and then you got site engineering comment letter. That's where Christine's comments are going to show up. So this is the marked up plans. The green and the red and the yellow are all things that our staff said they've got to change, or they've got to remember to make things clear so we can understand. Again, this is a rough conceptual drawing of what they want to do on that parcel. The 601, which is the one-stop shop or the preliminary site plan, this is conceptual only. So they don't build off of this. They give us what they think they're going to do, and then we provide them. Basically, it's a way for them to answer and fix simple, basic mistakes or inaccuracies before they actually submit their full plan. So, as you can see, that we've got different types of comments asking for clarity. And the reason why we do this, the big thing is there are lots of different symbols used by engineers to represent the same things on site plans. Our biggest goal here is to make sure that what we think a symbol means is what the engineer thinks a symbol means. Try to make sure we're both talking on the same page. Otherwise, there could be some issues later on. All right, so this is the site engineering comment letter. when they come in for that preliminary site plan, they're going to get a letter like this that has all these different comments. And this is all public record. You all can look at this too. So as you can see, they've got it listed by department, then which reviewer with their email address, and then, you know, the comment itself. And in this case, you know, this is a 4 or 5 page comment letter. So here's all the zoning comments from Christine. Some of it's just real basic stuff. To mention the drive aisles, show the vision triangles, all those types of things. Other places, like if you go down further to the second to last one, she says they have to vary a couple of sections there, which means they've got to go for a variance, most likely a BZA variance. So I'm going to keep going. Nice blank page for us to look at. All right. Now, once they do the 601, they don't have to do anything else. If they don't like what they heard from us, or they got hurdles that they don't think they can get over, they can just let it die and move on with life. Once they want to have decide, all right, we are going to develop this parcel, we are going to do something with it, they need to file for their final site plan. And if you remember the steps that I showed you in the beginning of the slide section, so you got your site plan is after the prelim, and so they're going to come in with the full-blown drawings, sit down with our folks, and all 24 agencies are going to have 12 days to come up to look at those site plans and say, we can live with this, or we got a problem. You can't put a building on top of a storm sewer or on top of a sanitary drain. You know, up if some of you remember where the old Patrick J's used to be up on North High Street, one of the developers, Bohr, I think, was going to put a large multi-unit residential on it. The problem is there is I think a 72-inch storm drain that runs right through the middle of that parcel heading down to the river. We don't allow people to build on top of storm drains and sanitary drains because of our need for access. At one point, he thought he would put 2 buildings and then connect it up in top and have a roadway through there, which we would allow. To date, that project is still not moving forward. But again, it's the preliminary process is a huge negotiation, because sometimes when one agency says, we need you to do X, another agency is like, wait a minute, that's going to mess up because we need you to do Y. And so we then, Andy Beard that runs the one-stop shop, he will get both, both city agencies together and the applicant and say, hey, we got a contradiction, we got to fix it. We got to find a way to move forward. Like I said, the whole thing is a big, giant negotiation process. As you can see, we got rec and parks, traffic management. I'm going to talk a little bit about traffic management real quick here. We are requiring more and more traffic studies because we are getting more dense. People want to put larger, more units on a parcel. The traffic management guys and their traffic studies there's a national set of guidelines through a association of folks. Mark belongs to planning association that represents planners across the country, and they work with best practices. Our zoning folks participate and work with a nonprofit that is nationwide that looks at and figures out best practices for zoning. How many parking spaces do you need for a restaurant? How many do you need for a call center? How many do you need for manufacturing? That type of thing. Traffic management folks, there is a national group that deals with traffic studies and best practices for those. So they have a big couple of 4-inch binders that help them figure out what is necessary for each traffic study. They then tell the applicant, here is the parameters of your study of how you need to do it. The applicant goes out and hires the engineer, and that's the traffic engineer that comes in and does all of these, or takes that study and does that study to figure out and then produces an end product. And traffic management folks are responsible for making sure that that engineer took those parameters that traffic management said to use used them and came up with a honest to goodness traffic study. So, you know, I know there's people that get conspiratorial when the applicant is paying for the study, but quite frankly, the city doesn't have the money, nor do we want to pay for those studies. If you want to develop a parcel, you've got to put the cost for these things. Now, traffic management does review those. Like I said, they do take 30 days to review those reports to make sure that they're accurate and that the analysis reflects the data that was in there. So, all right. So we're back to our general page here where that record info tab is again. Another piece under it is the building plan review. So again, you know, in this case, I typed in 500 Neal Avenue. I think that's new Chipotle headquarters. So again, you do the drop down for the processing. So you've got the application was submitted. We went through our internal review coordination. In this case, zoning wasn't needed because it was covered under the site plan, but building plan had to review to make sure that all of the way they were going to connect the boards and the beams and all that together was in compliance with the Ohio Building Code. And then also that we put in here that's got to have, you know, site engineering review. And then it appears that they've gone through that. They got permit issuance, which means the building plan reviewer and the site plans are all taken care of, and now they're in the inspection phase. We also have our inspection group is broken into 4 different subsections, areas of expertise. You got structural, you got electrical, plumbing, and mechanical, which is boilers, HVAC systems, those types of things. So you can look here and see what is going on based on the green check marks. You can do the pull down with a little triangle to see when the approved site plan, and that was attached on August 11th. But we issued the permits on 10/5. So we obviously had, we issued them on 10/6. So, you know, we got the approved site plan in. There may have been a delay in there because of a variance that they needed. But ultimately, we issued the permits in October 5th, and they started building. Let's see what we got here. So, and basically the same thing, you know, under that record tab, the attachment. You can pull up the plans. You can pull up correspondence that we've had. You can pull up the corrections letter, all of those things to see how long it's taken them to respond to us and come back to us. All right. So, by the way, just as a side note, all of our inspections are conducted within 24 hours or 1 business day of a developer requesting them. So we're slowly teaching the engineers and architects and developers and builders that they can't blame us for all the slowdowns that they incur. So, so we try to make sure that we are not the slowdown piece. So, let me see. Okay, so under the inspections tab, this is really getting far into the weeds, but I figured I'd at least show it to you. So if they need, they can schedule inspections online. They can call in for inspections. In this case, you know, they did the framing on January 4th of 21. There was another partial. They did more partials. Many larger projects are going to have a lot of partial inspections because they are building stuff in phases, and they don't want to build the whole foundation at one time and then start going up from there. They may build a portion of the foundation and then start to put their framing on top while they're pouring other portions of the foundation. You know, everything is all very well, is a big choreographed dance in a lot of these larger projects. So, so as I said, this is a real high overview of the different steps that occur as we as the project goes through our processes. So, all right. But at the end of this is a whole lot of good links for you from our overall webpage, the GIS map, zoning info, the portal, Mark's contact, my contact information. So on the GIS, when you first go into it, on the right-hand side, there is a link to a very short 2-minute video or 2-minute audio video that talks about where you can find the different pieces of information in our GIS map. Last time I checked it, the volume on it is still really low, so make sure you turn your volume up so you can hear it. But obviously, you can also give me a call or shoot me an email, and I will help you with the research, or I can take care of the research for you to do it. So at this point, that is all I have. I don't know whether I see Sierra is still on. I think that Phil had to jump. But Sierra, do you have anything else you'd like to point out or share?
I don't believe so, no. I mean, I got a couple of questions privately that I answered. I didn't know if anyone else had any questions.
We threw a lot at you all today, and probably just still trying to sink in up there, and I get it. Check out the slides when we get them to you, and I'm sure you're going to have more questions. Let me know, Sierra know, Mark Cavillas or Phil, whoever you think would be best. If I can't answer it, I will definitely, obviously, shoot it out to the experts. So I know a little bit about everything, and they know the nitty-gritty of how everything works. So
I think.
With that,
Pauline Edwards, did you need something? I'm sorry. Is Pauline on?
I just have the copy for the 2018, and I'm sure something's been added since the one for adopted July the 16th, 2018.
Oh, the C2P2.
Yes, yes.
I think the 2018 is the newest edition. Is that correct, Tony?
I think the 2018, the first edition, is the only one right now available on our website.
Oh, okay. That's all I needed.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I got it.
all right. Thank you, Pauline. We will definitely post the video. This is going to be online. I'll probably break it up so it's not a 3-hour YouTube video. And I will also get all of these slide decks out to you all to check it out. And again, any questions, reach out to us. But I can't thank you enough for giving us 3 hours on a Saturday morning that looks gorgeous. We got football kickoff here in a little while for those that are into it. Again, thank you all for everything that you all do in your neighborhoods to help keep Columbus moving forward. So with that, I will let folks go and talk with you soon, I'm sure, with different types of zoning code edits.
Tony, it's Selena from Department of Neighborhoods. We just want to remind everybody to take some time to complete the survey.
You are very, very correct. David Huey put a Survey Monkey on the right-hand side in the chat box. If you go and click on it or copy that link and take that Survey Monkey, I would greatly appreciate it. We continue to try to do these, to liven these up, because I know a lot of the folks that have been on here probably heard my same tired jokes 3 or 4 times, you know, we keep trying to keep it fresh and all that. My daughter accuses me of dad jokes all the time. So, but anyhow, but thank you, and take that Survey Monkey, please.